Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the very first episode of It's Good to Talk. We are your hosts. My name is Kai, speaker, coach, entrepreneur, and my co-host.
Is Marcia, inspirational speaker, author, mentor, and mother.
Indeed. And you may have been a loyal listener on our previous podcast, Mind Over Matter Talks, which was very successful, and we spoke about all matters of the mind. However, many of you have been requesting for it to come back. We took a short hiatus, which we'll go into a little bit later. Um, that was extended into where we are now. And there was quite a few discussions about having us visually
Yes,
on camera so that you can see us as well as hear us. And so that is why we are here showing up, using our strengths, using our voices and our pretty faces to talk to you guys. And yeah, we decided to rebrand the name just to have a little bit of a wider scope because of course we're very strong advocates on all things mental health, ranging from depression to loneliness and talking about men's mental health. We had a whole range of topics and guests, so you can still find out more about that if you check up on Spotify and all good podcast platforms. But yeah, I think here we're going to be talking about a range of things.
most definitely.
And today we're starting with Rebirth. It is the top of the year. And no matter when you listen to this throughout the year, actually, Rebirth is something that there's so many ways that we can describe that. What's your take on Rebirth, Marcia?
For me, rebirth is basically a process of being born again. And I would definitely say this is something that I feel like I'm consistently doing. And 2021, for more reasons than one, was definitely a year of rebirth. And so I just see it as a second chance. I'm seeing 2022 as another opportunity to try again, dust myself off and try again, literally that. And so, here we are. And I mean, this is something for me that is just so powerful, using our voice and using it, one, to heal ourselves, but also to help others heal and to make a change, because ultimately you're never going to change your life if you're not willing to make something change.
I love that. There were quite a few things you said in that actually, and I think just kind of connecting the dots back for anyone who used to listen and of course is probably excited that we're back. Are you able to go into a little bit of why and how we took our short break? So just in terms of the overview, in the beginning of December last year, we actually said, you know what, we've done 24, 25 episodes straight. So we are going to take a break. We covered, burnout and exhaustion and all those kind of different things as well in the episodes. And so we decided to have a break and obviously go away for Christmas and hit the ground running in the new year. But it was longer than that. And we also had a group called Mind Over Matter on WhatsApp. So we were
Mhm,
supporting that group as well, giving out
mhm.
tips and inspiration every day. But yeah, do you want to tell our
Yeah,
audience
sure.
more?
So, just kind of leading on to what you're saying about the group, this was, for those of you who don't know, this was a group that we were literally, Kai and I were every day for a period of about 7 months, just creating content that was purely to inspire people and to help them lift them out of the heavy mood that everybody seemed to be in because of the whole pandemic. And
Mm,
so, physically, we both have full-time careers. Obviously I'm a mother as well, and I'm juggling lots of things. And so I really felt burnt out at the end of 2020. And so I decided that I needed to see my parents. I hadn't seen them, and I wanted to go home. It had been 2 years at that point. And so I was so looking forward to my holiday. And, we had all decided that, okay, we're just going to just take a break for 3 weeks and we'll reconvene. Well, there were other plans for me, in
mhm.
particular. And so I got home, and I literally was home for a 24-hour period, and then found out that my ex-husband had suddenly passed away back in the UAE. And subsequently, about 2 weeks later, my own father passed away. And so my entire life just changed in a heartbeat. And of course, I ended up being in the UK for 4 months, which then meant my focus was no longer doing the things that I enjoyed and loved and passionate about. It was a total turnaround, supporting my mom, planning funerals, supporting my children, trying to keep myself above water. And so, again, this just highlights, you can have a plan,
Yeah.
and that is fine, but know that plan can change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just want to say two things. Firstly, the recording of this episode, there was a whole plan, and that plan with microphones and all sorts of
Right.
stuff. Like, look, we just got to keep it moving, and
We
we're
just got to
steady,
keep
and we're showing
100%.
up.
And I think
What?
that's what just sorry to cut you, what our listeners, what we want to reinforce to our listeners is that it may not be perfect. Yeah. And, we could have chosen today, we're not going to go ahead with this because, Kai has had these wonderful headphones gifted to her, and I've got these wonderful microphone, and it didn't work. And so what we're going to do, are we going to not do this, something we have talked about now literally for a year, or are we going to just run with it and work with it? Yeah? Production over perfection, because we know in our hearts that at the end of the day, what we're doing is more powerful than it being perfect.
Absolutely. One of the things, there's a guy that I follow now on Instagram called Maddie Woodard or something to that effect. Sorry, I don't say people's names much these days. I just scroll and whatever, guilty. But I know his first name is definitely Maddie. And he really reinforces done is better than perfect. There's a couple of people that I follow who say something similar, but I love the simplicity of that. Done is better than perfect. And I really have been implementing that a lot more recently. But going back to my original thing, Marcia, I commend you so much. And I don't say this to many people because obviously I don't tell them unless they already know your circumstances. But the fact that you just have kept going, there have been times that I've been a bit worried because I'm like, oh my gosh. And, I've sometimes probably incorrectly made decisions for you going, no, Marcia can't handle that right now because, she's got so much going on. But ultimately, you've kept on showing up through the good times, through the difficult times, through the really crap times, and you just keep on. And that's not to say that you've run yourself into the ground, because I've thankfully seen that you've done it in my opinion, in a healthy way, and you've pulled back when you've needed to. But I think overall, sometimes, even like today, obviously is a key example. Things aren't going to according to plan, and you can just get into the self-defeated mode and say, no, actually, it needs to be right. The quality, this, that, and the other, which is true. It's right, but the quality of what we're doing and showing up is so much more powerful than the excuse or the reason why it isn't the way that we thought it was going to be. And just seeing you showing up day after day after day, of course there were projects that we were working on collectively that had to have just been paused, and you surrendered to that, of course you did. But overall it just showed myself and many others around me that you can keep going. You do have a good support network. If you reach out and you ask people for help, as difficult as that may be, as uncomfortable as that may be,
Yes.
like, what are you actually going to do? I remember when you told me what had happened, and I could not fathom it. I couldn't process it, but I just thought whatever I was going through to try and compute that was nothing in comparison to what, of course, you had to comprehend and keep going to support your children, to obviously have your family network and stuff. And I've watched you try to process many difficult, unfathomable situations that it's just like, are you actually for real right now? Like, another thing, you know? But we'll get into that. We'll get into that as we
Yeah, we
speak. Because
will. We
people see
will.
you and just think you're fine.
And
You're okay. You're
that's,
smiling.
I think that is something that, thank you for that. And I want our listeners to know that I'm still very far from it being okay. It's still a struggle every single day. And I say this, and I don't say this lightly, that I don't see what other choice I have but to just
Mhm.
keep going, because the other option is just to give up and to stay in my bed and give up. And that's not an option for me. So I have to keep going. And I don't have the answers. I don't have it all figured out, contrary to what people believe. There is this kind of illusion that even though stuff is going on, I live in a hot country and everything is great, and what could I possibly be worried about or complain about or have issues with? And
You've got
even
the
up to
sun.
this week,
You've got
I've
the sun. Don't
I've
worry, it's
had this
fine.
very conversation, and I said everybody's juggle is a juggle, and the juggle and the struggle is real, irrespective of the climate that you live in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do. There are times I feel like, my gosh, do I literally need to slit my wrist and say I am struggling for people to understand? But this is why I'm on the mission to be as authentic as I can be.
Hmm.
No, not because I want sympathy, because I want people to see the realness of a journey. It's not all unicorns and stars and glitter. It's not that. Along
Yeah.
that way, it's going to be challenging.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, touching on Rebirth, we spoke about this for a few months because, of course, we had people saying, "When are you guys coming back?" and da da da.
Yes,
And of course, at times we were thinking, "We don't even think you listen to the podcast. Like, you never
right,
said." It
right.
wasn't until it was gone, and of course, for different reasons, it just hadn't restarted again. And there was no pressure to come back, the next month or whatever. But as Marcia mentioned, of course, there was a right time and a time that was just going to be, it's going to be forced. So coming back on now, of course, it is, the top of the year and stuff, but we spoke about rebirth just in the sense of starting afresh, starting
Yes.
new, not necessarily hanging on to what was like.
Yeah.
When we started that podcast, it was very much needed. It was the start of the pandemic, and it's still a much needed conversation in terms of mental health and having the right mindset, growth mindset, and having that dialogue because we weren't speaking about it in society as much as we are now, of course, heightened because of the pandemic. But I think in many ways, talking about rebirth now is so fitting, of course, for your circumstances and for our new projects. Um, and just for the new year, I think sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm not going to do New Year's resolutions," or, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, it's not about New Year's resolutions. It's not about pressuring yourself
No.
to change or whatever. But it's a healthier look, in my opinion, to seeing what's working,
Hmm.
what's not working,
Hmm.
and making those decisions as difficult or as uncomfortable as they may be to change something and not being afraid to start again because sometimes you're forced to
Yeah.
change and that is uncomfortable and horrendous at times,
Yeah.
but other times you can make the change yourself and just decide I'm not doing this anymore, or I will do this and I'm going to commit and I'm going to start a new cycle, and life is always about cycles. So that's
100%. It's
how I
always about
feel about
cycles,
today.
and it's also about taking responsibility and understanding that we are the drivers of our lives and we ultimately make the decisions. And accepting that, where we are, even though there are external factors. So, as I've explained, some of the factors that have happened are out of my control, 100%.
Hmm.
But how I choose to respond, react, is down to me
Hmm.
fundamentally.
Absolutely.
And this is something that I stand true to, and something that I actually reinforce with my children all the time, especially as they get older, understanding that the choices we make in life are down to us and it's our responsibility, and we have to own that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think for me, there was quite a few things that I realized towards the end of the year anyway. I do a self assessment and journal and stuff like that, set new goals or review my goals. And I realized when I was in London that I had been carrying around a set of keys that, I mean, I'd had for years, to be honest. And I'd had a couple of friends ask me to just have a spare set to their home and storage and all sorts of stuff. And I got rid of my storage the first year after moving to Dubai because, of course, I've now realized I'm staying a bit longer than planned. So, got my stuff moved, and I had that done whilst I was still here. Thankfully, my family supported me in that. So I still had that key, and it had not even occurred to me to get rid of the keys before the other day. So we're talking like a week ago, literally. And when I looked at the keys, there were about 7 or 8 keys and some redundant key rings. Like part of the key ring had fallen off, and it was I'm just carrying it around. And it wasn't keys that I actually use every day in Dubai. They're like in a drawer for my London stuff. So obviously when I'm going, passport keys, certain cards and whatever. Even an old purse that I had for the UK. And I just went through loads of stuff. I was just like, I don't even use this loyalty card anymore. I don't even know if this shop still exists. I haven't used these cards literally in
Yeah.
4 or 5 years. And it was time to just obviously cut up, shred, and remove the redundant keys. So now I don't have any key rings, but it's just 2 literal keys that I was able to put in. I was like, oh, my
Yeah,
bag's a bit lighter now.
it's important, I think, to shed and not to carry this
Absolutely.
heavy weight, because for those who don't know, I have a background of being a stylist and image consultant. And one of the things that I did with the clients was help them to get rid of the things in their wardrobe that no longer serve them. So, again, things in life, if things are not serving us, they may serve us for a period of time, but then, we evolve. And so we have to get rid of it in order to make room for what is to come. If everything's cluttered, how are you going to make room? How are you going to allow these things to come into your life? And so you have to make space. So I personally am not a hoarder, much to the horror of my mother and many other people. But I just get rid of things, and I'm not
Yeah.
attached to things because I see it as make space for something new.
I think that's probably, I don't know, I'm making the assumption here, but you've obviously lived in the UAE for what, 24 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Toot toot.
And I think that's a side effect of that, because I've now been here for almost 5, as by the time this goes to air. And being here and having moved several times, you can't be moving with all this unnecessary stuff if it doesn't have a purpose in your kitchen or your bedroom or your bathroom. It just That's my opinion. And I've actually seen that echoed in quite a few friends' homes that I've visited here. Some not so much, but I used to think it was a bit minimalistic, and I wouldn't say negative, but it just looked bare because I was used to seeing stuff. You go home in the UK and you see letters, you see paka paka, you see letters, you see things that have come through the door, like Tesco send out whatever. And when I go back every time, I'm so astonished because I'm like, we don't obviously have mail that comes through our door here. It's just slightly different. Do you know what I mean? So now I really appreciate the minimalistic style, and I know that everything serves a purpose. Certain books or diaries, certain candles, like they get used, they get thrown out, they're utilized, and they have a purpose. And each time I do move, like you said, the wardrobe, if this doesn't fit, if this is broken, you go, oh, I'll fix that strap. Listen, if
Yeah.
you haven't fixed a strap in a week or two,
You're not gonna.
take it
Yeah.
to the
And if you
tailor.
haven't worn it in 6 months, you're not gonna wear it. Yeah. And
Exactly.
or the oh, when I get back to size 8, you may never get back to size 8. So let's just focus on the present. Be present. You are
Now,
size 10 now. Wear the clothes that fit you now, because
be
as we
comfortable
know,
now.
nothing is guaranteed. You may not even get to next week. So
Yeah.
let's just enjoy the present moment and embrace what all of those things. So accept ourselves as we are now. And so, yes, I think so. I'm certainly not advocating that people just get rid of stuff. I'm saying, and as you've said, keep what's necessary, what
Yes.
serves you, what you use,
Yes.
because otherwise, what's the point? You've
Well,
got
I think
100 glasses, but you don't only use 2.
in today's society, I think we're sort of taught and advertised to so much to keep buying stuff, those
Mhm,
shoes, those hats,
mhm.
those whatever it is that you like. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't treat yourself or any of that
Of
stuff. Of
course.
course, do that. But again, when I go back home sometimes and around family and friends, there is this excessive, and I think as well when you haven't moved from where you currently are, that also plays a part because you have comfortability factors. Things just are the way they are because they've always been that way. um but seeing it from the other side now and understanding, you know the power in just having less, traveling with less, even my handbag every day having less in there, you know, the strain on your shoulders, like it
You
feels
are hilarious. Like, I look at you. I mean, I know you've got a
my
lot
bag.
better, but you are literally, she's literally the bag lady. Like, she'll have 20 bags and it will have this. But I've seen you evolve. And because, like, I will tell you, I'll go home and I'll have one pair of jeans. And I can see you looking at me like, one pair of jeans and one pair of shoes. Yes, because I know I don't need 15 black shoes. One will do the job for all.
That
And
week,
and it is
yeah,
something I've mastered over time. Like, and I tell myself I'm going home, so if I don't have something, I will just get it because
yeah, that's definitely what I do when I do travel. I get stuff that I need in that location, and I leave it most likely in that location. I don't
yes,
travel back with it, so I go with an empty suitcase, come back with a full suitcase. Um, but it is a process over time, and I think in terms of rebirth, sometimes people might think that you've got to change everything all at once, and sometimes it's just a small incremental shifts. And the thing
change
on my
something.
may not even be a big thing, but the fact that I've moved 5 years ago and I use those keys once or twice a year when I travel back to the UK, I hadn't even thought about it before, but it's the fact that I've carried that for 5 years. It's been locked away. I've moved home several times. You know, it's just in a drawer. It's over there. It doesn't need anything.
Right,
But if you're doing that in one area of your life, where else are you doing that? So
100%.
again, at the end of the year, I tend to do things, but when it's emails, I got rid of about 150 different accounts that I was following on Instagram, just because they
Yeah,
weren't active, they didn't
yeah,
serve me anymore, I didn't
right.
like their content anymore,
Mhm.
whatever reason. Before it used to be like, oh, I don't want to unfollow because
Yeah,
listen,
because whatever. I mean,
thanks,
as you said, how you do anything is often how you do everything.
yeah,
And so, as we are saying here, I think it's important to understand that these behaviors filter into all aspects of your life: how you work, how you parent, how you show up, you know, even as you said, as something as simple as social media,
mhm.
but you're consuming things that may not serve you anymore. So why are you hanging on? Because you don't maybe want them to take it personally because you've unfollowed. Get rid of it.
That's exactly how I used to feel. Not so much in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, because I've got
Right.
way more detached on social media than I think we used to be back in the day. Like, should I friend you and this person and that person, like Facebook and whatever? Like, that's definitely evolved. But I think, there's some people that I did follow because I found their content very useful a few years back. But when I've
Right.
actually got to check their feed, won't mention the name, but I'll tell you when we come off air. I looked at the person's page and I was like, what are you posting? Like, they were great when I saw them live, do you know what I mean? And had fantastic tips on her stuff. But now I'm like, no. So I
No.
just unfollowed. I thought if I want to follow you again next month,
Okay.
I'll
Exactly.
find your account. And I think there used to be that fear of you're gonna miss out on something, or you know, just the whole can I because there are people that I follow but I don't actually remember their handle. So I think if I unfollow you, maybe I won't find you again. But is it the end of the world? No, it's not. So it's just sometimes cutting loose. And if you need to buy that thing again, then you buy it again in the future. But it's very likely that you're probably getting rid of it. You haven't used it and you won't ever need to replace it or rebuy it. So that's one of the things I think I would definitely pass on. If you take anything from here, it's just shedding,
Yes.
and shedding for your rebirth and your growth, and making space in your mind, making space
Mhm.
in your home, making space in your creativity to just go on to the next thing,
Mhm.
and detaching from the habits and things that don't serve you anymore.
Yes, girl.
Is there anything that you got rid of or anything that you slightly changed in your rebirth cycle?
Yes. I've definitely got rid of people. Ouch. And in that process, I've learned to say no more and to stand up for myself. So this is
Yeah.
part of my rebirth process. So um, typically, I would have described myself as someone who was really concerned about what people thought.
Mm,
I didn't want to hurt people's feelings, and I still don't want to hurt people's feelings. But what I understood I was doing was actually displeasing myself in
mm,
order to please others, and worrying about what people thought and how they're going to see it. And nah, that behavior doesn't serve me.
Is this like conversations that you've had or disagreements
Yeah,
that you've had with
conversations I've had. No,
people on
because
WhatsApp?
the space I'm at in my life, I actually don't. I'm okay to not agree with someone and still be able to maintain a friendship.
Yeah,
However, where I draw the line is when individuals want to tell me how to be, or they tell me what I should be doing. Or no, I want to do what I need to do for me because it works for me. And like our relationship, I feel it's a very strong relationship because we acknowledge and accept each other as our whole selves. So I
yeah,
don't, my friendship with you does not, is not determined by what, how you respond to what I tell you to do. Because I don't
yeah,
tell you to do things. I support you in arriving at the point you need to arrive at and
yeah.
your journey. So it's not about me inflicting my opinions onto you. And I will only give you advice if you ask for it.
Mm-hmm,
Other than that, my job is to support you and
mm-hmm,
help you grow.
mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm kind of shifting from people pleasing, let's say, to pleasing myself. And
Absolutely.
that is not always received in the way I would like, but that's part of my growth process and it's part of my rebirth. So this is the new me, and no matter who says that I will remain in the old space, I'm here to tell you that actually that's not going to happen.
Good, good. I think I've definitely seen a shift over time, but more recently, I've seen that you've become more still. And I know you do this at times anyway when you need to, but I think we're definitely in agreement that the time for talking and the time for being uncomfortable and screaming and what if and maybe it's like, listen. And I
Well,
think we've
actually,
these extremes of
I
we're
got
either,
gifted this at Christmas. Can you see it?
yes, the things you can see only when you slow down. Oh, great. I do you know, I heard someone, not the book, but I heard someone actually say that. I'm listening to Diary of a CEO,
Yes,
Stephen Bartlett's
partly.
podcast, and I think someone was talking about that. That's great.
I haven't started it yet. My daughter bought it for me, but I'm looking forward to it because the fact is the magic happens in the stillness. So if
Absolutely.
anybody's looking for a good read, I recommend this.
Ew. In fact, the episode I'm listening to now of him, I don't remember the guy's name, um, but they're talking about attention and attention to detail and obviously social media and loads of other things and just how
Mhm.
we're constantly distracted and
Yes.
how it distracts us from being in the flow state. So this is interesting. I'm gonna check that book out. I do more audio, so I might
Yeah,
download.
and most probably could download it. To be honest, I do audio too, but I seem to have got a lot of books this Christmas, which I'm very grateful for. So I need to find some still time to actually read the physical books. So yeah.
Good, good, good stuff. So on the topic of rebirth, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with, or even maybe dig a little bit deeper before we close?
Well, what I would like to say is that because you said something earlier, and I thought, yeah, I know that change can sometimes be frightening, it can be worrying, and so I just want to kind of reinforce that, really worrying is not going to change the outcome of anything, really.
Mm,
So worry is an emotion that I'm not going to say is useless, or maybe want a better expression, but if you can find ways to shift that worry into what can I actually do to change the circumstances?
mm,
Yeah. So, when I am like that, because of course I worry, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't worry,
hmm.
but I will tap in then to my support network, maybe have a conversation that will help me to shift what I'm thinking um, to an alternative way of thinking, seeing it differently. So,
Yeah.
for example, last week I was struggling. I had a really rough week, and I just felt demotivated. I was kind of stuck, and I'd shared a post, and off the back of that post, I had lots of feedback, lots of comments. People were resonating, were grateful that I had shared the lows as well as the highs. And of course, my intention when I did it was none of that. it was just sharing. And off the back of that, I then had a meeting with one of my mentors, and I kind of came to the conclusion that, I'm not happy in my day job and it's not serving me anymore, and it's time to have a shift. And just by having a conversation with her, she really was able to elevate my mind and to remind me actually of who I am and the power that I hold within me. Because sometimes we forget.
Yes.
And so so I shifted from a state of not knowing to actually feeling so revitalized, refreshed, and like I had the energy to do something about that. And so subsequently I have gone on. I've spent a lot of time with myself, thinking about my skills, what I can do with those skills, how I can transfer those skills to something else. I'm almost done with my CV. And so that was just one thing. Had I stayed in that state of worry.
I think there's a couple of key things about what you said, because absolutely, we didn't touch on it earlier, but change at times can seem so daunting and overwhelming. And it's like, again, with the whole top of the new year thing, people think it's like a whole, big fake facade and whatever. And it's what you choose, really. It's what you choose to believe and go with. And if you want to make small incremental changes or one big change or whatever, that's up to you. But the concept of rebirth is acknowledging that there is a cycle of life. And you had acknowledged that you were in one state of worry. And I think it's important to say that all feelings are valid, wherever you're high,
100%.
low, whatever vibration you're on. But understanding where you are and knowing, okay, what is this showing me? What's this teaching me? And then starting on a process of, okay, you could have chosen to open up and be vulnerable and say, look, I'm not in a great place. Or you could have held that in, stayed in a state of worry up until this week, and it just would not have been productive. So when you're aware of how you feel, acknowledge that it's okay, but actually choose to open up and do something about it, because you're like, okay, I don't feel great now. What's led to this? Maybe it's because I had that phone call. Maybe it's because of this situation. Maybe you know why you feel that way. But choosing to stay there is a choice. And I think reaching out to someone or trying to tackle it in a different way, or even just staying there for a moment, just saying, you know what, I'm going to give myself a day or a couple of days to really sit and really cry and to really, whatever it is, get it out, write, journal.
Yeah.
But then after these few days, there needs to be light at the end of the tunnel, and I
That's
need
right.
to do X. So obviously, you have been able to do that, and coaching and healing other people, you're able to really identify that. But for anyone listening or watching,
Yes.
it's great to acknowledge that, because I think we can easily go into this downward spiral of everyone's doing this and I shouldn't feel this way, and the guilt and the worry and the overwhelming anxiety that brings. But having the point at which you become aware of, okay, why do I feel like this? How can I actually change it? Okay, you don't have the answers, but you went to a mentor, you spoke
Yes.
about it, you was like, look, I need to talk.
Yeah. And
And having
it's
that
good to
reminder,
talk.
it's good to talk, baby. It's good to talk. But having that reminder of, actually, you're seeing it from this perspective, but this is the perspective that it really is, and being empowered by that and allowing yourself to be empowered. Because you could easily have been like, no, that's not
Defeated and
me.
oh my
No.
God. Right.
It's like, actually, you know
Yeah.
what? All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. And I think, from our experience of talking to men about mental health, and everyone, actually, no matter what you're going through, it could be anxiety, depression, a whole range of things. I think if you open up and talk about it as we are doing today, it could be a friend, it could be a stranger, but sometimes just verbalizing it helps you to have another level of clarity. So, of course, with the name of this podcast, we would urge you to talk to someone, pick up the phone, send a text, drop us a comment.
That's right. To be honest, kind of just want to put it out there, we are really looking forward to having guests on the show. And, of course, if there's anyone out there that really feels that they would like to share something of value, or just share themselves, because we all have something that can impact someone else. And so, we are actively always on the lookout for interesting people, regular people, people just like us, who want to speak and to share their voice. So, please feel free to hit us up, drop a comment, let us know how we can contact you, and we'll be in touch.
Definitely. And we're also very, very much looking forward to our forthcoming event. So if you are watching this before it happens on the 21st and 22nd of January, do subscribe to find out more about what's going on. But we have a live webinar coming up called Reclaim, Reset and Realign, where we'll be talking about more things just like this and helping you to be empowered, inspired, and making the shift and the change for 2022 and beyond. I will be one of the speakers and hosts, as will Marcia, and we have a fantastic lineup of other speakers talking about wealth, travel, going from being an employee to now being a CEO in their own right, and helping you to even build your tribe and build your content. So a good range of topics there. It is free, and we will leave the link in the description below. And yeah, you can join. It's also open to men and women. So it's a panel of women. And we are all ironically based in the UAE. That wasn't intentional, but that's how it crumbled. And it's great. It's powerful. We've got about 50 years experience in the UAE between us. So if you are thinking about moving, or just generally wanting to know how the hell we overcame our fears and made those changes, and you want to make a change and go after your dreams, then this is definitely something that you should tap into and ask the questions, ask away. We all had different goals. We didn't know each other before, but we've all connected. And the common thing is we went after what we wanted. So we want to share, we want to inspire you, and we will leave the link for you to register for free. And please do share it with your friends and family too, if they need uplifting and inspiration as well. So is there anything you want to add or say as we leave our first episode here? I'm really proud of us, by the way.
Yes, we should be proud of ourselves, because there was definitely a moment where we almost didn't do this. So yeah. What I would like to leave our listeners and viewers with is just remember, if you never change something in your life, no, that's not what I want to say, but you're going to edit this. Okay, what I want to say. So what I wanted to say is, you'll never change your life if you don't change something, no matter how small it is.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. So that's it. This is our first episode, our visual podcast. I hope you have really enjoyed. Please do subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channels, and yeah, just if you enjoy it, please give us the feedback. We love to hear and know what you're thinking, any questions that you may have as well. It's all welcome. Any topics that you think we should talk about, we've got a list of topics as well that we can't wait to get into and just tackle and giggle over. But generally, we do want to hear from you as well and see what you want to know and talk about. So let us know in the comments. And you can find myself on Instagram, Facebook, and my website at I am Simply Kai. So my website will of course be www.iamsimplykai.com, and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at I am Simply Kai.
And you can also find me on Instagram at Marcia McLeod, which the link will be below, and also at my website, marciamcleod.com. So look forward to hearing from you.
Excellent. And remember, it is always good to talk. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.